Hi, this is Marilyn Isaacs Kaufman, and welcome to the Psychic Connection. We are so fortunate. Dick Sutphen and his lovely wife Tara have agreed to be with us for an interview, and all of you who have been into metaphysics, of course, have heard the name Dick Sutphen for many, many years. I know the 15 years I've been doing my work, I first came across his poetry. And yeah,
that goes back.
That goes way back. Yeah, it goes way back. And he's a leading. I call him a pioneer in the New Age movement. He has helped so many people with this book. You Were Born Again to Be Together, Past Lives, Future Loves. The tapes are incredible that he has. I know a lot of you have listened to the tapes that we have at the Flotation Center. Use them in the flotation tanks. And I know, Tara, that you're interested in art. That you do beautiful artwork. I've seen some things that you've done and pictures of what you've done. And one thing I wanted to start talking about today, the subject is soulmates. Because I know that the two of you are soulmates, and my husband and I are soulmates, and there are different types of soulmates. Did you want to discuss that, or?
Well, I'd be glad to. I think that Tara and I are the kind of soulmate that you think of when you think of the term. But I'm inclined to think that maybe all relationships where it's an important relationship are a soulmate of one kind or another. Some come together just to learn to fight, I guess, to learn to let go without doing each other any more damage than they normally do. It's a matter of they've been together before in other lifetimes, and now they're back together again, and they're just attempting to apply that which they've learned, hopefully, which they've learned, to another round. And then I think there are soulmates two people who come together because they might share a dharma, duty to self and to society. They might share a common goal. So they will get together maybe for a while until that goal is begun or handled. Doesn't necessarily mean be together for the whole shot, but then there's that twin flame kind of soulmate that Jess Stern's words. Of course, Jess introduced Tara now.
Oh, wonderful.
He's the one that wrote the book that's getting all the attention now. But that's the type that everybody would like to find.
Yes.
It took me a while to find it, and I'm awfully glad that I did.
Yes, my husband and I were very fortunate to meet. We met 2.5 months later. We were married. 8 years. And it's really incredible when there's nothing like it. It's literally like finding your other half. And that separation, we are never separate, but just even if we're away from each other for a few minutes or a few hours, it's like, oh no. And I think it's what the soul feels when it remembered the separateness from its creator. I think that's the whole, what the soulmate reflects in this level is our yearning to be one again with the creation, with the universe.
And there's a recharging.
Yes.
In the being together.
Yes.
Actually, I swear there's a real literal recharging.
Absolutely. It is. Really, when we're not together, like I say, it's never been overnight or anything like that, but if it's just for a few hours, we telepathically communicate, of course, all the time. And
well, you can tell right away, too. I mean, your husband and you, the minute I saw you, you could tell you really connected.
Yes. It's so wonderful to have that connection and to be talking to other people that have that and can explain it, because I'm sure you've encountered this. People that don't have that type of relationship, it's very hard for them to understand. It's kind of like if you haven't experienced it. I know we don't have
close
a lot
to
of
nirvana.
Friends that are married. Because most people have these very social marriages or whatever, where the husband does this and the wife has her friends, and so it's very nice to connect with you. I had a question I wanted to discuss soulmates or the higher self. Everyone seems to have a different concept of what the high self or higher self is.
Right.
And in the last year, I've been receiving a lot of visions about this new age and about the big shift and the new spiritual light that's inundating the earth plane right now. And one of the visions I saw was that we those of us that could see and were ready to kind of shift into that fourth dimension and open up the heart chakra, I have felt that all of a sudden I saw a lot of us and we were really big. And we had wings, and all of a sudden I realized that we were becoming our high self, that it was no longer a matter of contacting the high self, but that right now people who could see and feel and tune into it are having the opportunity to actually merge and become one with the high self. And in this vision, I was very, like I said, very large, and I looked down, and the karmic wheel and a lot of the past patterns and negativity were kind of like dust and cobwebs at my feet that I could literally just step out of. And so that's what a lot of what we've been teaching. So I'd be very interested to see what you might think about that.
Well, that's nice. I think it's real nice. I can't argue with any of that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I see this higher self, though, maybe a little bit differently.
I thought maybe you did. That's what I'd like to hear
yeah.
what you say about it.
To me, the higher self is going to contain the highest vibrational level,
Yes.
of course, and would be deep within our center, wherever we perceive that to be. But the Eastern idea says that we are all one.
Yes.
The oneness. We talk about the oneness, and it's the difference between the standard religions, one of the major differences, and what we all accept. Now, if we're all one, I see, of course, I talk about how science and metaphysics work together.
Yes,
and I always
absolutely.
attempt to put them together, and I find that people embrace that when I
Yes.
can do it. Carl Jung, as an example, talks about the collective unconscious.
Yes.
And I see really the higher self containing, at least containing, so this doesn't negate what you've said, but it would contain the collective unconscious. And the
Yes.
collective unconscious would be the totality, all of us, all mankind,
Yes.
all entities, incarnate and discarnate. And so when I see going into higher self and getting in touch with our higher awareness, what I really see happening is going into getting in touch with the oneness.
Yes.
Literally getting in touch with the totality, with the idea in mind. To me, the totality would be a great energy to stall. We'd call it God.
Yes.
And there would be a great deal of energy there that would have more knowledge than we have
Yes.
at this point. But that we do have that ability, the more we tune in and work with these ideas, the more we are able, I think, to access higher self to a degree that it continues to serve us. But I see it as collective unconscious. And then you can take that from there. So see, that doesn't negate anything you said. You could just add what you said to that, and maybe it even all works all the better.
Yeah, because it's interesting because, in the Kabbalah they talk about, we used to, actually the macrocosm, microcosm, and maybe that's what the symbolism of seeing myself very large was seeing myself as the universe, and that we all have that chance now to raise our vibration and feel that oneness, because that's what a lot of what we've been teaching on the show is that we are all one.
Yes.
And it's been just incredible. I'm sure you've seen it. The acceleration in the last few months has just been outrageous. It's like,
and it's growing, and that could be part of the large,
the large
too.
Yeah,
that's what I envisioned. The moment you said that is the fact that all of a sudden, finally,
it's all coming together.
Yes, it's coming together, and people are listening. Who didn't listen before.
I think that America is sick of a lot of negativity. The world in general, and we're starting to come out of it. We're starting to find ourselves.
The happiness is not coming in the materialism anymore. The
That's
churches
right.
don't have the answer.
That's right. Well, fear-based.
At the same time, those churches are going
It's
down.
negative.
People still need a spiritual base.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I don't think they're willing to buy the
We're looking for love and happiness.
That's
anymore.
right. That's what Keith and I try to do with our work, is to demystify psi phenomena, because I'm sure you've run into this with your work, that people tend to get off on these head trips. Well, this is who I was in the past life, and it becomes escapism.
Right.
And that the whole purpose of, to me, of the phenomena is not the thing.
No.
It's the spiritual meaning. So I'm real happy to hear you talk about the spirituality.
The spiritual and the philosophical basis to reality, because what I think we can offer and to share with people is a very logical spiritual system that ties into science, it works with science, but it is totally logical. And that is something that there is no religion out there. I studied religion and philosophy all of my adult life, and there are simply no religions and no philosophy that can possibly explain the inequality, the injustice, the terrible things that we watch on the 10 o'clock news, much less in our own lives, and we think, gee, I'm a good person, why'd I have to go through that? Well, karma would explain all of that, explain everything. And as I tell seminar groups, usually it's the very first thing that I'll communicate, or among the first things. I think that we either evolved out of a seed, and there's no meaning whatsoever. Here we are several million years later, and there's no meaning at all, and no reason really to be good or to do anything. And this is it. Or there's some kind of a plan. Now my work, and I know your work, has shown you very, very, from your experiences, very effectively, that there's a plan.
Absolutely.
Now if there's a plan, it would seem to me to follow that there would certainly be an intelligence behind the plan. And if there's an intelligence behind the plan, then would it not follow that there would be justice as part of it? And so karma, reincarnation, it works, and it explains it all. It explains the terrible things that are part of this world, the child abuse and the starvation and all the rest of it.
The patterns repeating.
Yes,
right.
yes, and what goes around comes around in very simple contemporary terms.
Yes.
So this, though, is more acceptable to people who are tired of fairy stories and who still need a philosophical, spiritual basis to their lives.
Definitely.
To give life meaning. And we have that now. And I think that we have a spiritual system, even though, what are we really talking about? It doesn't even have a name. I mean, maybe it's metaphysics, but that is in itself awfully restricted. But we do have a system that is saying, give up your fear. Give me your fear. You don't need your fear. You're your own judge and your own jury, and there's nobody who's going to punish you out there. There's no bad guy waiting for you. There's no hell. And there's no heaven. It's just what you make it.
Yes.
And that fits, number one, just with the 80s. I mean, people needing some ground.
Learning to save ourselves.
Yeah.
Unconditional love. Mm-hmm. That's been the message. Well, the Bible said it over and over. Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Sure.
That was really the only thing Jesus taught. That was the main teachings.
And that ties in with all of this.
Yes.
Perfectly. Just absolutely perfectly, because, well, I've been in the Word for 20 years, and if I had to boil it all down to just a sentence or so, I'd have to say that we are here on earth to learn to let go of fear and to learn to express unconditional love. And of course, when I say fear, I'm speaking in terms of all the fear-based emotions, all the greed and the pettiness and the jealousy and the anger and the hostility and all of that stuff. And unconditional love, I'm not speaking in terms of romantic love. We're talking about accepting other human beings the way they are.
Yes.
Without judgment. I'm talking about accepting other people as they are without blame and without expectations, even more important, in service. And I'm talking about that sort of thing as unconditional love. And just a very short time back, we had a studio where we spent our evenings a lot. And Tara was painting, and I was sitting in my word processor, typewriter. All of a sudden, it just hit me. As much as I've written about those two things, fear and unconditional love, they're really not two things. It's really one thing, because as you go out of your way to express unconditional love, usually you're having to let go of fear to do that. And as you go ahead and express unconditional love, you're letting go of fear. It's a process. It's just one thing.
Yes.
And
we tend to see everything in duality down here.
Yeah.
It's actually not that at all.
Yeah.
Let go of fear, express unconditional love, and that really sums it up.
Very simple.
Because it is simple, though,
Yes.
I think. We complicate it.
Yes.
People complicated Christianity a while back to make it so just unfathomable to me. I mean, they just complicated and build in the fear and all the rest of the stuff. And this does not need to be complicated. I think it's very simple. As how do you rise above your karma? Karma that you've accumulated in the past. To let go of fear. That's what it's all about.
It's the fear that binds it to you.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the fear. And that's unfortunately what the religion, when they cut out the parts of the Bible that taught reincarnation and taught the metaphysical things, they wanted to control. And the only way you can control people is through fear.
Sure. And if you teach people about karma, and we know that reincarnation was in the Bible, there's an edict in there that says you can't believe in it anymore. So if you can't believe in it anymore, it must have been there in the first place.
Yes.
You go back and really study the old church teachings.
Constantine, really.
But Constantine. But the whole fear idea. But if they left that in, reincarnation doesn't work without karma.
Right.
And if you really believe in karma, you don't need the church.
Exactly.
You don't need the organization. So at that point, we can't have that. We better take that out of the Bible, because for hundreds and thousands of years, the priestcraft has controlled.
Absolutely.
And we have an institution that must protect itself.
And that's what's breaking down now. And
that's what's finally breaking down. It's time that it broke down. And not that there's not wonderful things happening in the Christian church and Judaism and all the rest of it, because some of these people do some wonderful things.
Yeah, feeding starving children and orphanages.
But controlling people with fear, I don't care what you do after that.
That's right.
That's wrong to begin with. Teach people to be scared to death and the devil's going to get you, and the ranting and raving and the Bible stomping, and that we're all familiar with these days.
Yes. We've had some real interesting experience. Ever since we've been doing the show, Spirit opened the door, and people have just arrived right here for us to meet with. We had 2 rabbis that came from Israel, and the Kabbalistic rabbis, and they showed up on their harmonic convergence, and it was all arranged months before, and no one knew that that was the date, and that was the date that was picked, and it was the 10th of August. And as they say, the seed comes before the tree, and that was their harmonic convergence. And there's a big movement now among Reform Judaism of embracing the Kabbalah, which is fabulous.
Fabulous.
Out of
Pure
the
metaphysics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful metaphysical system.
Incredible. And as they say, it's being revealed in the masses now. It's no longer, the hidden doctrine is no longer hidden, and it's being revealed in the mass consciousness. And they say, it gives you culture when you think about it, they said that the Messiah, their Messiah, was born in this August. They were telling us lessons, we're going, oh, this is so heavy. Because a lot of, to me, what the harmonic convergence was about was the Christ consciousness descending into the earth plane. So it connects. And there's a lot going on with Tibetan Buddhism. I don't know if you know anything about this, but near Bloomington, the Dalai Lama's brother is a professor at Bloomington, and they've built a Tibetan Cultural Center. See, Indiana's a very wild place. It's becoming a very New Age place. And His Holiness is coming here the 23rd and 24th.
That's nice.
24th, yes, to bless the land. And he sees it as a place where world leaders will have peace talks. And if you look at the Casey readings and all that, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois are some of the safe regions that will be. And it's very fascinating how all of a sudden it's all activating. It's all active. Yes, in fact, I think the Dalai Lama comes on Rosh Hashanah, and that same week.
What's coming fast to this area?
And I showed you the picture of Serpent Mound. We've been down there for the harmonic convergence, and people are going down again for the fall equinox, which is also a new moon. And all this kind of thing. So there's a lot next week that's going to be going on, and it's so exciting.
Well, the entire Midwest too. That's
you've been all over.
Fabulous.
Oh yeah, it's just amazing to us because we have to be able to do the seminars and to carry staff and all. It's a very expensive proposition.
Yes.
So and to put out the magazines that support it all. And so this time we've been doing it on a Silver Eagle bus, a rocking entertainer bus out here.
Yeah.
And because everybody burns out with the doggone airplanes and the snags, and nobody burns out on this. We just we're doing fine. We just flow from town to town, and it has allowed us to attempt to do some things that we've been wanting to do for a long time, to come into the Midwest.
Yes. The Bible Belt.
Bible Belt, I guess.
They used to call it. But
we're going into the South, too.
I really want to work in the South. I want to, in fact, we're going to do, we've done, 35 cities this year, and we want to do 70 cities next year. We want to do every major city.
I feel that's very, psychically, that's what I feel like your work in the next 3 years is going to blossom into what you've always thought it would be. The next 3 years are very powerful for you.
Thank you very much.
I even see another home. I feel like there's a move or another home. You may have 2 homes.
We've been talking a little about this.
Yeah, I got this as a message last night.
Really?
That's interesting.
You have to tell us where after.
Yeah, after the show.
Yes, we want to know that.
Yeah, if you picked up on New Little One, we have a new little one here coming along too.
I know.
Yeah, last week.
Wonderful.
This one was not really planned, but
That's the best way.
Happiest.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yes.
Really.
Hunter's going to have a playmate.
He's 16 months now.
Yeah.
And then this baby's due, February, March?
No, May.
Oh, May.
She just found out.
The 1st of May.
April. I would kind of feel April.
April?
And I do feel
Okay.
maybe it's a female.
Oh, really?
I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad. That's
feeling.
I've picked up the female energy too.
Yeah.
And
If it's
Tara,
a male, it's a very gentle male, but I feel like it's a female.
we have all the boys now.
Yeah,
so
you're ready.
We have boys, yeah.
we have
The
lots of boys,
gazoo.
so we are ready for a little girl. That support mom.
I really am a little outnumbered.
That's
Me and the cat,
exciting.
girl cats, that's
we got
about it.
girl animals, but that's it. But as we're going, as we've been going through the country, Omaha, Nebraska, with very little publicity, just marginal, letting the people. We only had 200 people on our mailing list there. We have 150,000 people, but only 200 in the entire state of Nebraska. And yet we had 400 people come out for a seminar.
Great.
And small places
So
like
fabulous.
Colorado Springs, which is 80 miles outside of Denver.
Yeah.
Well over 400
It's the higher levels working.
Yeah.
That's
and here in
It's all-
Indianapolis, we've had people calling all day.
Well,
I feel real bad
absolutely.
because
We have to
we're sold
cancel
out.
them.
We can't get any more people in. I
Absolutely.
wish we had a bigger hall. But we have not anticipated the reaction in the Midwest.
Great.
And so I am so encouraged. It's always been here, but it's been underground.
Exactly.
It's just
Very.
untalked about, I think,
Right.
a lot. And maybe what Shirley has done, Shirley MacLaine, is that she's kind of made it all right for a lot of people
Exactly.
who felt that in there before.
Right. She gave them permission
Yeah,
to.
it's okay
come out.
to
Express
investigate this and
themselves.
think about this, and you're not so weird if you talk about
Yes.
these ideas with friends.
That's right.
And bless her for that,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she has opened doors that those of us that have been in this work for a long
Yes.
time, we've never given up on it, but we kind of sometimes wish, my God, I wish I could communicate with more people. I
That's
wish I
right.
could get the word out. And it's going to happen now, and it's going to
Like
happen.
wildfire.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah, it's
And
just
we're
like
having
wildfire.
reaction. It's funny to me, some of the things that have kind of resulted from this. The Japanese, where a lot of this came from, have become very interested in our tapes and our work and our New Age music. And New Age music is basically Oriental music recreated because it's all on an antennic scale. There's no tension and no resolve, and it's just
Yes.
smooth. And yet the Japanese are now looking. We've made some agreements with them, and they love what we're doing. And I've talked to Japanese people, and they say, "Gee, we should come to Japan and talk about reincarnation." And my reaction to that is, "You don't talk about reincarnation? Come on! I thought this comes from your country." And oh no, nobody talks about this over there. Just American stuff. So if we
Yeah.
end up in a position of going back to Japan to share these ideas with the people, I mean, I love it. I would just...
Within the next 18 months, doors will open. I even think next spring, a big door may open March. Well, right when the babies do, but I think some doors will start to open. The baby brings in a new spirit with your work. This is something that just came to me right this minute. Your work will take on a whole new direction. The soul that's coming in has a very high purpose and will work with you. Hunter does also. I can feel this. But this spirit has a very direct link with work you've done in the past, in past lives. And it's just...
Now I got the goosebumps.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, God.
I feel the energy just come right over your head. Oh, that's wonderful. So where do you go from Indianapolis? You're going...
Cincinnati.
That's a neat area. A lot of high people there.
Columbus.
Really?
Oh,
Great.
yes.
I think we're almost sold out in Cincinnati too.
Yeah, you probably will be totally by the time you get down. And then Columbus.
Yeah, and then we go on to...
Oh yeah, Cleveland's always been good.
And Nashville.
Ooh, I feel good about
We
that
work
sound.
in the
Yeah.
Performing Arts Center in Nashville, and I would really like to use in the future Nashville. We've got a lot of friends in the music business, and we're a music label ourselves, and we would like to be able to have it as a base to work from in the South, to have a Southern base,
Wonderful.
and to be able to really take the ideas into the South. There's no reason they wouldn't go, other than the resistance, of course, that we all encounter sometimes, the fear-based resistance, but I think the people would be receptive. I think
Absolutely.
they're very, very receptive.
And we need that balance now that the Bakers have moved back down to Tennessee. That's real. I love that yin-yang
Duality,
balance there.
right.
That's really-
Good yin-yang balance, yes we do.
That's-
In all things.
That's right.
Keep everybody straight.
I had a question for you too about Sedona. So, wow, that area's been so, and you've been so wonderful in channeling people's awareness to that area. But I had a question. Have you felt a change since the harmonic convergence, or have you been there?
We
have
haven't
not
been there
there.
since.
Oh, so you've been out.
We were there the weekend before, and we were in Denver, right close to where Jose was going to be doing a lot of his things
okay.
for the harmonic convergence. But they just had
I heard
thousands upon
14,000 people or something.
people showing up there. And this is a very little town.
Yes.
And it's some retired folks and a lot of cowboys who don't
A
understand.
lot of people had to camp, let's put it that way.
I'll bet something happens.
Every hotel room was booked.
Nowhere.
Cowboys do not understand what's going on. They see people at the market, and they've got a pendulum and a crystal, and they're going over the food at the market, and it's going bzzz, and they see...
Yeah, the cornmeal that goes, there's a big run on cornmeal during the seminars sometimes.
Well, I tell people always to do a protective ritual, and I describe one that I like.
Right.
We'll make a tentacle on the ground. And I said, if you really want to make it, do it with cornmeal. Use some of the old techniques. And So everybody runs to the store and buys cornmeal. So
Yeah.
Sedona is still trying to figure out what this is about. And now the Japanese are really interested in Sedona.
Whoa, that's heavy.
So pretty soon there's going to be
It's going to be a lot of touristy.
Japanese people there. And by the bus load with little
Want to open a store in Sedona, yeah.
And the poor cowboys at that
Tourists
point
are
in time,
coming.
I don't know what they... We're not so... some of the people like it. The merchants like it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But some of them were not real popular on their list. They claim that we have done more than any Chamber of Commerce effort or anything that's ever been done to promote their town, but they're not fond of it.
I know someone had expressed to us, concern about that many people, maybe it destroyed some of the vibrations in the ground.
I would
But
do
just think about it, if you're being drawn there, if people are being naturally drawn there, how could that be?
Everything I've ever gotten there.
Well, and everybody's perfect. It's their karma to experience it. So, I mean, it's for everyone.
Like that. And we're talking, too, about a very natural phenomenon. I think that's important, that there are vortexes all over the world.
Absolutely.
It's just that and I didn't discover the Sedona vortex. All I'm doing is taking a scientist, Lyle Watson, the metaphysically oriented biologist, who talks in terms of there being three primary vortexes in the world: Sussex, England, the Bermuda Triangle, and this area around Sedona. He says Prescott, but everybody anywhere in the area knows that it's Sedona, and they're right together. There's a mountain between them, but if you could fly like an eagle, you're talking very few miles, and it's on the edge of Sedona. So.
The one
I
in
just
England
talked
is
about
positive
it.
too?
The American Indian legend says there are two positive and two negative.
Okay.
And it says that Kauai, Hawaii, and Sedona, the two red rock areas, are positive. And they don't name in their legend, I don't think, the two negatives, but Watson names the other two as vortexes. So there's a lot of people that question, there's a lot of people that
Ley lines.
say, oh, come on, and there's no energy here. And yet my reaction to that, ever since I've written the book, we've been getting all this reaction, all these non-believers. And I say, go and simply put yourself in a position of meditating, opening to this experience in the vortex, and then you tell me there's nothing to this. And every time, that ends that. We're talking about a subtle energy, like the healer's energy.
Yes,
a healer before healing, acrylion photography, you can take a picture and the emanations off the hand. After the transfer of healing, no emanations. That's the kind of energy we're talking about. So you can't go down there with a Geiger counter or something.
As they say, those who have eyes to see and
those who have eyes to see
and ears to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it is. What do you see of the future of the New Age movement?
I see more and more people basically looking for answers within.
Yes.
That cuts it really right there.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that's what we have all been getting. The synchronicity is incredible. The unconditional love, the letting go of fear, and you are your own. It's all within. Everything out here.
That's the difference between
You're a
the old
survivor.
and the New Age. Is you find these answers within.
Help save
You don't
yourself.
have church telling you what to do, or even a government ideally telling you what to do, or an AMA doctor telling you what to do.
Let's save the
Taking
humans.
Responsibility. You taking responsibility.
That's it.
I thank you so much for this interview. I could go on and on
I thank you.
for
This is
hours.
fun. This is
this has been fun.
We're gonna have a good time. I had dreams all night with you guys, and I said,
that's
good,
nice,
we were preparing this ahead of time. So I really thank you for taking your time, because I know that your time is precious to you. And I'm sure we'll see you again. I really do. I feel like
I know we will. We'll be back here for sure.
Oh, we will.
We will. The other parts of the country from which
we'll be out to see you. We'll be
Good.
interconnecting here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He started tuning in and has come up with incredible
that's real
stuff.
empathic.
And,
That's what it's going to take. For a long time, I felt that it would be the scientists, actually, that would help to convince the masses of people that there was something worthy of learning. And the physicists, they're doing it.
Are we on, or are you waiting for us?
We can be. We are on.
We can carry that if you like to.
Okay.
Turn that into a
I'd like
nice...
you to introduce it again.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Here we are again.
Really?
Simultaneous reality. Here we all are again. Dick Sutphen and his wife, Tara. Are you ready? Oh, good. Cool. Okay. Okay.
1, 2, 3, cut.
Here we are with Dick Sutphen and his wife, Tara, and we're so honored to have them with us here in Indianapolis, and we'll continue our talk on all the wonderful metaphysical subjects. I think we should go back and talk about what you were saying again about science and about what we're talking about.
Well, I think that the scientists are going,
because
I
he
think
has
the
a very
scientists will
scientific
prove
point
it.
of view.
Scientists will talk in terms of the spiritual realities,
Yes.
and they already are, but it's going to happen more and more and more. And all of a sudden, people will listen. Physicists are very metaphysical people, I found many of them. And they're experimenting with things that are causing them to look beyond science and into metaphysics. My favorite example that I use very often in the seminar is their cloud chamber experiments, where they isolate the smallest little molecule of energy, and they put it into a small cloud chamber, and they seal that chamber so that nothing else can get in, nothing can get out. And, of course, you can't see it. I forget what it's called, tachydon or something, but what they find is it has a size and a weight and a pattern and a speed. And they photograph it on the film, and it exists, and then it falls to the bottom of the cloud chamber. And it appears to die. And if they leave the camera running, it's back. Now it's got a new size, new weight, new pattern, and new speed.
I love it.
And this is just part of why they conclude that energy cannot die, it can only transform. And of course then they can, because it goes on indefinitely. Always it comes back, but it has a new form, new pattern, new speed, new everything. And so energy cannot die. And of course then we talk in terms of energy, that we're energy. Einstein proved that matter is energy and became pretty famous with that discovery. And so he says that this chair is, it appears to be a chair, but it's actually a lot of molecules swirling around here at a particular vibrational rate. And there's a plant over there, and it's swirling at a rate, and our skin is not actually solid. And in our body, in our mind, and I think our soul has a vibrational rate.
Absolutely.
But all energy, and there again, the highest vibrational rate, being in the higher self at that point. But the energy cannot die. And so I think we live very much, the whole universe, they say too. Let me carry it one step further. The scientists tell us that the whole universe operates on a principle of vibrational energy, which makes sense that everything about our life here operates the same way that the Earth and the rest of the planets operate. So, energy cannot die, and it can only transform. So I think that's exactly what we do. Our energy is moving forward, and if we're filled with aliveness and that which drives the energy forward, then we're probably serving ourselves, we're living a healthier existence, everything. Then when it comes time to check out, we're going to transform the same as the energy. We'll come back in a new size, new weight, new pattern, new speed, but we won't die, we'll transform, is all. And groups of people can really identify with that.
Yes.
Just with a little of the scientific mixed in with the basic ideas of cause and effect, of karma, and how it would work. Metaphysics teaches that we all have a vibrational rate. A rate that we'd earned in the past as a result of how we've lived our past lives. And how we live this life is either raising or lowering our vibrational rate. You could say it's raising or lowering our level of awareness. So, as we let go of the fear and open to expressing unconditional love, we raise our vibrational rate. The more positive we are in our response to the opportunities, so it ties in with science. There again, metaphysics is tying in with science. If we respond to the opportunities in our lives, if we respond with hostility and negativity and anger and desire for revenge, we're going to lower our vibrational rate.
I've seen a big polarization. One thing I want to say about science, that's probably why, we've been worshiping science, and it's been, it's caused a lot of distress to people that are in metaphysics, but I think it's happened for a reason. I think that maybe that's all in the plan, that we were supposed to worship science so much that now science is going to be saying, we're going to validate all of this. We're seeing all this, and it's all meeting now. And another thing I've been seeing really strong is this polarization. In the last few years, but especially since the harmonic convergence, I've been seeing the negative people are getting more negative and destructive, and positive people are getting more positive. And the people that are in the middle are making a decision. You can almost look at people's auras and see which way they're going. Yeah. And it's being played out in the world too. With they want peace talks, but at the same time they're trying to speed up the war in the Mideast.
I know.
It's being polarized. But the good news is that I really feel that people are seeing this in the masses and are going, hey, I don't want it to be
Wait
played out
a
in the
minute.
negative. I want it to go to the positive. And so the
That's
mass
right.
mind, of course, is what affects earthquakes and affects
Sure.
everything. And
Sure.
besides if we have nuclear war. And I feel that what's happening is that I feel really like the group mind is really made some decisions about the earth changes. I don't think they're going to be nearly as severe as people
I
have
hope so.
the doom and gloom.
That's
I think there will
right.
be earth
I think so
changes. I
too.
think
Right.
But there always have
But
been.
there always have been. And people have always
Always have been.
survived and gone
Right.
on. There's always that burning out of the dross or getting rid of the negative energies. What do you see concerning, have you gotten any information about the polar shifts or earth changes?
Well, I
yourself?
don't think we're going to experience a polar shift in our time,
Interesting.
nor do any of the people that I'm close with. Even Charles Thomas Casey is a friend we have on
Good.
tape saying no,
Great.
he doesn't see any major changes in our time, that we will come around. I agree with you that it'll be the collective negativity
Yes.
of mankind as a whole that will create a balance if a balance is necessary. But
Yes.
if we can swing it the other way, it will not be necessary. And
Right.
I just like to think that we can
Do that.
that we have
Yeah.
that ability. Yes, I don't see that polar shift. Ruth Montgomery's a friend, you know.
Yes.
I like Ruth. I love Ruth.
And we
But-
taped her show. She was here.
Did you? Oh, great. Well,
She has
you know,
relatives here. That's the only reason she was here. And she gave a lecture, which I guess she just doesn't do anymore. So we were, I mean, that was lucky enough to have her lecture here.
oh, that's nice.
That is.
Well, she talks about a polar shift, but the one thing that
May not
I
be
think Ruth
exactly,
would say too, the timing is so often off
That's what's
in
happening.
metaphysical things.
Sure.
We know scientifically that eventually there will indeed be a polar
Yes,
shift, but I do not see reality as being locked down,
right.
so that we know exactly what's going to happen next year or 10 years or whatever.
Right.
And don't, you know, people say, well, Casey said this, or Nostradamus said that, and somebody else said this.
But we have free
I've still-
will. We have free
We
will.
have
That's
free
right.
will.
Our reality.
And Nostradamus it's all up to interpretation.
Ooh,
There's
that's-
another new book
yes.
on that. I'm reading
Yeah.
it now,
Yeah.
comparing it to the old, because I'm always interested in these things. Edgar Casey I have just tremendous respect
Yes.
for, but he's been wrong many
Sure,
times, so is Ruth.
absolutely.
And so, not to, I feel sad sometimes in a group of people where this will come up, and they'll say, what do you think about the earth changes and all the stuff? And they'll lean right into it. All of a sudden, they're just, oh,
Yeah,
boy.
they're right there.
And I'll say, you want it to happen?
Anticipate, yeah.
Oh, no. So they do.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a purging, and that's very fearful to me. That's a very
That's
scary thing.
unbelievable.
It's like some of the
Yes.
born-again Christianity, some
Sure,
of this crazy
absolutely.
stuff that's happening. Let's not generate that.
Not bring
You
it
won't
on.
like it when it happens,
Thanks.
believe me.
Yeah. Television won't work anymore.
You better have your seeds
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, really. You're going to have to eat bean sprouts.
That's
Guess
right.
what? You're going total
Very
vegetarianism.
lucky to have bean sprouts at that
That's
point in time.
Right.
So let's not encourage any of this.
I agree.
But so many of the psychics out there, so many of the psychics live in California,
Sure.
around us, and I know Jeff Stern. He doesn't think it's happening. He's, there again, we spend time with Jess all the time. He says we're so close with him. Alan Vaughn, one of the top psychics in the country, he's been accurate more than any other, according to Central Premonitions, isn't it? New York? Alan doesn't see it, so I just don't think it's.
Well, it might be a...
projection too, and I think if you're not reading in the higher levels, if you're they're reading what they're reading, and maybe they're reading old patterns.
Well, it
They're
can be
not going-
symbology maybe,
Yeah,
too.
Oh, they're picking up the negativity. All it takes is
Yes.
a lot of people thinking about
Thinking
something,
that.
and it's in the
Thought
air.
forms, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're right. It's
Sure.
thought form, and so you start picking up the thought form, and it would seem like a very valid thing coming in. I could see that. I will go into look for psychic answers a lot, and you can get some that comes in with a whump.
Sure.
And doesn't end up proving to be reality. You tend to lean towards it. You tend to look inside, but to totally say, well, that's it. You could have picked up something else. You could have been down that day negative about something yourself. There's a lot of explanations.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, polarity could be also like the East going to the West and so on and so forth,
Yes.
I hate it when we have to go to these extremes and we draw back. You get the
Yeah.
born-again Christians screaming that what we do with the devil.
Yes.
And there's been a polarization between born-again Christianity
Yeah.
and New
I've
Age.
got some
It's
in the mail since my
Yeah.
show's been.
Oh, of course, I know. I get them
No,
pasted on the envelopes, and
I was brought up in the Fundamentalist Baptist Church, and
Yeah.
it was really trippy being in Sunday school going, that's not what really happened. I remember I was
Right.
having past life flashbacks of what happened in
Right.
times of Jesus, and my mother said I was 2-3 years old. I would just scream at the top of my voice and have to take me out of Sunday school. And I would always say, I would be very happy because they talk about the second coming. I'd say, well, it could be right now. And they'd say, no, we don't think it's today. And they would
That's going to be in America.
I thought, well, if you had faith, why couldn't, right, it's going to be in
Why couldn't it?
Yeah.
This afternoon.
That's right now.
That's
I'm
right.
so excited.
Right.
Or maybe it's individual.
Yes, exactly.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
That it's coming as a consciousness. And that's exactly what...
Yes, and wouldn't it make a lot of sense that Armageddon would come the same way for those who chose that way of thinking?
Mentality, absolutely. They're gonna
You
pull it right
create
to
your own hell.
themselves.
If you create your
got
own
it.
reality, and that's the basis of metaphysics.
You got it.
The idea of creating your own reality. Then would it not be that you dwell upon negativity and you live in fear,
Yes,
but you're not creating a living hell as you live this life?
Absolutely.
You're experiencing your own Armageddon.
yes, and there are many out there that are doing that very thing, and they'll just play it out, the best they can. But the wonderful thing is the work you're doing. I wanted to ask you about, I noticed that you had formed a nonprofit group, and you were, because the purpose of our show, too, is to help raise people's spiritual and social consciousness. As a matter of fact, we've been connecting with some Native American people, and we've been gathering money and supplies and things for the Four Corners Reservation area, for the Yellow. Yeah, it's just been incredible how that all came together at Serpent Mound. A wonderful woman, Awana Chasing Bear, who is a Kiowa Apache, which is only 500 left in the United States.
Yes,
She's a very spiritual medicine woman, and we've been working with her. And our second check was for a large amount of money, so we knew Spirit we're going, okay, this is great, we're supposed to be doing this. And just been getting tons of, people just are outpouring. People want to help. They feel that we are all one, and that we can't let our brother down. And a lot of, we're going to be trying to send some things to the Sioux reservation, suffering a lot in South Dakota. And they're trying to take the black
I didn't realize
votes
you were in
and-
that work. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's just all been
Sends you a
evolving.
lot of light in the
Good.
process.
But I'd like to hear about what you are doing, because I know that you must be doing a lot too. With
Well,
networking.
no, we're not doing that much at this point in time. We were about a year and a half
Oh, you
ago.
will, okay. You will
We did
again. It's
form-
coming back, because I can
it will
see it
come
around
back.
you.
We know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You've planted some seeds that are going to come back, because I can
Yes.
feel that around you.
We established Reincarnationists as a nonprofit organization to hopefully accomplish a lot of things. We've been stifled a lot by what the government does to a nonprofit organization. They tie your
Yes.
hands together, as you know, and
Yeah.
they make it almost impossible
Yes.
for you to do anything to generate the interest, and they censor what you're doing. But we were very involved right about the time that the born-again Christian movement was taking such a strong stand against anything New Age, and they were managing at that point in time to influence the Jesse Helms of the world, and they were getting things into legislation.
Yes.
And most of
I
that
have
did
heard
not
that.
come down, but because they
Yeah.
hitchhike it on a bill, and then the whole bill would be rejected. But had that bill gone through, it would have carried with it a law now outlawing one aspect of the New Age, and it was we saw it happening all over the country.
Amazing.
And so a big part of what we wanted to do was to respond to this, not with negativity,
Right.
but to say that you have to stand up for what you believe and you know is right.
Well, be aware of it and vote.
Right. Sure.
And that got us into problems too, because like she says, that was the way to stop it, was to change a lot of what was happening in government. So we, as a nonprofit organization, though, you have to stay totally out of politics.
Yeah,
So the minute I
can't do
even
that.
lean into something
Catch
that was
22.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was trying to say, hey, if you don't want this happening, if you don't want to be legislated out of existence, then we better elect some people here that are a little more liberal-leaning and are not going to pass this kind of a law. And yet then you talk about Spirit getting involved, and they started shooting themselves in the foot
Exactly.
to such a degree, we
Right.
backed off, because I do not believe in ever hitting anyone when they're down in any way.
Right.
And boy, they just started doing far better job of blocking
Yeah.
themselves than we could ever hope to have done. So
That's what negative energy eventually burns itself out.
Right.
And that's...
and I think that's a perfect example of that concept in action.
Yes.
There it is, folks.
yes.
Right there. Now you're going to get some mail, Marilyn.
Oh, yes.
Boy, oh boy, it's going to come down now. Marilyn's going to get a lot of Bible tracts in mail.
Yeah, I always have a lot of interesting things with that, because to me, it's so interesting. I have so many people that come to me for my private readings, and they'll say, oh, if my minister knew I were here. And
Now, isn't that sad,
It's
though?
so sad, but then I realize that they're there for education. and that they don't have to have that fear. And once they see what's happening, they go, well, I'm going to go back and tell them. I'm not afraid to tell them. I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
Well, they saw that it was very beautiful and loving.
Exactly. That it was an experiential, that a lot of my work helps open people up to their own high self. That's what, when I do my readings, there's actually a whole different, it's like a shift in consciousness that occurs for all of us. And they actually sometimes will see themselves, what I'm seeing, a little peek comes through. And that's what I feel like we're all doing actually, is just, we're planting these seeds. We're
Well, when you send
permission.
someone back to the church and they start talking
To
about
love
within the church,
themselves.
there's some beautiful seeds being planted
That's
there.
right, and I have ministers, I have priests, Catholic priests, I have all people from just all kinds of walks of life. The 15 years I've been doing this work, the change in the last 5 years has been phenomenal. I'm sure you could probably go back to about that same time. There's a big shift.
Absolutely. But when I go way back to what planted the first seeds, probably for me, I was raised Presbyterian, and I had lunch with the minister at my church one day, and he was talking about a retreat that he had attended, and he said he could not deny some of the psychic and mystical experiences he had as part of that retreat. And I said, really? Yeah. He said, I can't include it in the teachings, and he went on to describe some things, which of course today would be very basic to me, to all of us people watching. But we're going back to probably 28 years.
That's wonderful. Saturn cycle.
So,
it's interesting.
Saturn cycle?
Yeah, it's a 28-year cycle usually is what Saturn.
There we go. So,
It's heavy.
and now think of that happening on a large scale right across the country.
Absolutely.
I mean, the churches do not have to allow themselves to
Go on.
disappear at the rate that they are actually dropping, though. They will. It will be cumulative. They're combining. We just saw some friends. We drove down to southern Indiana yesterday afternoon, and they were talking about how they had to combine the minister from the Baptist church with the Presbyterian church because
How wonderful.
they couldn't support them both.
Really
and
is
so they
pretty
kinda made a deal.
wonderful.
That's great. You should not want to join the Presbyterians.
No.
That's wonderful.
But if we could get a lot of,
Age.
rather than having, but you see, that's happening as a
great.
result of the churches
That's
just dropping
wonderful.
off.
Oh, yeah.
And if they could bring in to open again
That's
and just say,
wonderful.
hey, because people still would like to have a spot to gather.
Absolutely.
No, it really would. Maybe
That's
you don't
right.
need the organization when you accept karma, but wouldn't it be nice to go down and get together with other people
That's right.
who share your ideas?
That's right.
So I think they will change or they will disappear.
That's right. We had as a matter of fact, a few years ago, the Carmelite nuns here in town. Now, they're the ones that take the vows of silence, and they make all the holy vestments for the altar, and very specialized, and they're very devout, and when they called us, we thought, what are we going to talk to them about? They take vows of silence. Why are they calling us?
Write a lot of notes back and forth.
Really? So we went out there, and we found out they have certain periods of time they can talk during the day, and this was one of the ones that they could talk. So we went out, and they were wonderful. The whole spirit of it's in a beautiful Tudor-type mansion, and they were just such high beings. And what they wanted to talk about is, of course, in their shutting out the outside senses, which is, of course, when you get lots of visions and you get lots of experiences, that's what they wanted to talk about. They knew that we could explain some of their experiences, and it was wonderful. It was like, whoa. I mean, you could just feel the energy and the pureness that radiated from these women, and they still keep in touch with it. As a matter of fact, Merlin ended up...
And they didn't have any problem with it.
No, they invited us there, and they were, and wanted to hear, and they were thrilled. We even talked about reincarnation.
So they could go ahead and mesh the two. And
Perfectly. It made perfect sense to them. They were thrilled. And then when Merlin this was probably, 5-6 years ago, and then Merlin ended up being born July 20th, and we sent them a birth announcement. And they were so excited, they said, that's the day of our Elijah. That's Elijah's birthday, and he's the founding prophet of the Carmelite, their whole way. And I said, whoa, that's heavy. So they were real into
Who'd
that,
you send
too.
back?
Yeah, you picked him up
Yeah, just back there,
at the Tudor mansion there.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So our work's been that way along the way. Just incredible experiences with people that you would never. The last place you would think.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
that
think
is.
that's-
I'm real surprised at that.
Yeah.
That's a neat story. I'd like to repeat that
Yeah,
story.
it is. They're just wonderful ladies. The
Yeah.
spirit is just so obvious with them. And then Father Justin here in town, you'll probably be hearing, if you come back to town, he teaches silver mind control. He's a Jesuit priest, and
he's teaching silver?
And he teaches silver, and he has a whole center that he has started.
That's wow. We just met some silver mind control instructors in Chicago who are friends of
You
ours.
say the Catholic priest did.
Yeah, but just think of a Catholic priest doing it,
wonderful,
because they're
yeah.
coming from the same place we are, even though they can't inject all the metaphysics into it that they would like to. They're
Still
totally
human
metaphysical,
potential.
and as they say, it's just how can you keep it out? It's
He
it's there.
started a thing here called the Hermitage, and it's his own work, and they brought in Ruth Montgomery. They helped, promote that, and so there's a lot of interesting things. Indianapolis is a very interesting thing, and someone told me that they think that one of the reasons that Indianapolis has such a high astral energy or whatever that's attracting all of this is that, of course, Indianapolis, there were a lot of Indian vibrations here. There's a lot of ceremonial ground. And that all the ceremonies that they did and a lot of mounds, of course, are built around here. And the mounds.
So there's still spiritual energy
exactly.
here in a lot of.
And a lot of it's been put out into the astral, actually. And then, and they gravitated here to begin with because obviously there were vortexes and energies here.
Yes.
And what do you think about crystals? They're tools, of course. And I know we've been hearing more that you have some tapes on crystals. And
I've done a tape on crystal as a result of working with a lot of people. We'd have people come to our seminars, and they would want to, or they'd be specialists on crystals.
Yes.
Some of the people had written the books. And Tara and I use them if we are meditating, especially if we're meditating together. We like to hold hands,
nice.
and we put the crystal between our hands. And I see them as amplifiers, and is there value? Of course there is. But again, it's like the energy we were talking about earlier in Sedona. If he who has eyes to see or has the sense to feel, or who is willing to open to explore. Because, somebody picks up a crystal and says, no, I don't feel anything. We've all gone through that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but those people who are willing, sometimes people want, in the metaphysical, I think, to have instant gratification like they can with everything else. They want to be able to understand it all instantly. They want the experience now. And I think it happens faster in this almost than it does most things, but you have to be willing to put out a little effort. You have to be willing to. I use the analogy of learning to play tennis. If we take 400 of us here, we all go out and we get tennis lessons this afternoon, and we're willing to practice, pretty soon, if we keep practicing, we're all going to be fair to middling tennis players. Some people will have a natural ability, and they'll be out there beating everybody else. We know that. They'll be coordinated, and they'll just identify with it. But it's the same thing with metaphysics. If you are really interested in developing an ability, whether it be a psychic ability, whether it be a particular aspect, anything within the psi world, learn how to do it and practice it. And pretty soon, everyone can become at least fair to middling if they're open. And the same with crystals. And they are amplifiers. I wouldn't go along with crystals, though, to the degree where Edgar Casey says, carry one in your pocket all the time.
I agree. I think that's...
Because they can also amplify negativity, too.
Right.
And that's a concern that they would amplify the negativity. So if you're around a lot of negative people, let's say, you're in a situation where everybody is really in disapproval of all these things, boy, that crystal can be picking that up and just shooting it out at you twice the dose. Anytime I feel that I'm within the range of negativity, or if I'm having a hard day myself and I'm trying to bring all that positive up, I just seem to keep the crystal away.
Yes, I understand. I feel that too. What do you think about star people and all the connections with the UFOs and going back to our origins? Do you think we came from the stars? Do you have feelings about that?
Well, Brad Steiger's one of our closest friends. He's just, I love the man. We've been close friends for years and years and years. And that's all. The star people is basically Brad's concept. I cannot deny what we sit down over dinner or for an evening at the house and we talk about. And he'll talk about some NASA engineer that's just told him of this, and lawyer over here. And I mean, we're talking intelligent, grounded people with these phenomenal experiences. And yet myself, and I don't want to speak for you, but I kind of just distance myself from it because I have enough to do with what I have here. I want to talk about karma and love and letting go of fear and these things. And the star people, I think they're certainly, I can't deny Brad's research.
Yeah, but let's not scatter our energies,
I agree. It's come up a lot in the show, and that's been our feeling is that, maybe that's true, and if that's your reality, and that's you have people...
Yeah, right. If that's your reality, if you're the person who really feels that identification, then it is meaningful for you, and I would do nothing but encourage you to follow. Read everything that you can. Listen to what all the key people have to say. Going back to your first question, you said, do I think we come from the stars? For a long time, I did a back to the first lifetime regression. And I did it with thousands and thousands of people. And I am convinced we don't all come from the same beginnings.
No.
I'm convinced that there was involvement with others.
Yes.
Probably many others. There was, as Edgar Casey talks about, it seems there was an experimentation, a crossover, soul crossover. There appears to be, and it's not just me. If it were just me, I'd wonder if I wasn't projecting it, but I've talked to so many people who are in the same line of work, and they talk about these light people.
Yes.
And the first Earth lifetime appears to be these light beings. And what I kind of, as summary, and I don't, this is getting a little, but it appears that maybe these were more highly evolved people who got sent back. You flunked third grade, going back. We're going to do that again. And they have to go through this again. And maybe that's one of the potentials that exists for us once we evolve beyond this plane. I had it happen so many times and I wouldn't talk about it. And I found that about 5% of every room say, all right, how many people did this? And then we get down, how many people saw that? How many people? And then we get down to the last one. I said, did anybody in here see themselves just as a ball of energy or light? And you had a hard time putting it together as to what was happening. And 5% of the room. And then I'd talk to them afterwards, they'd come up and they'd all be, and more often than not they would say, I have never felt I belonged here. I don't belong here. What am I doing here? I want to go home.
They have terrible allergies to the earth, all sorts of things.
That's interesting, because when I was a small child, I would think of myself as a light bearer. And I always had, all my work's conscious. I don't let, I'm kind of against channeling. It's not my path.
Vocal channeling.
It's not my path at all. And
I don't encourage anyone else to do it either.
Yeah,
I think it'd be
dangerous.
very dangerous. Mine's always been very conscious. I've always felt like I've stood between this level and the other level and could help kind of bridge that gap for people. And at a very early age, I started using the term light bearer and perceiving myself as light and perceiving the light around others. And I think that, and it's interesting that I'm fascinated with that. We can't wait till tonight. This is so exciting.
You're going to come here with us?
Oh, very
good. Here, and I thank you so much for your time again. And I know it's going to be incredible. And people have been all week. Are you going to do an interview with them? They're so excited.
Oh, that's so nice,
to see
Marilyn.
this.
I love you for it.
Yeah, and we'll see you again. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
We'll go see what Hunter and Merlin have.
Tearing up the room. That's what.